You ever get that feeling like the ground just gave out under you and everyone else is still standing? Fine, that was me. Last Saturday, inside a party hall decked out in lavender balloons and glitter-grinning relatives and one giant purple cake. All of it paid for by me. Apparently, I'm Nate. I'm 31, graphic designer, kind of a homebody, definitely not a party guy. But I showed up because it was my niece Mia's 6th birthday. And my sister Carla made it sound like she really wanted me there. Said, "You're her favorite uncle, she'll be so happy if you come." So I did. Even got her a little play kitchen set she'd been eyeing for months. The thing was heavy, took me half the morning just to wrap. Thought I'd done something nice. Turns out I did a lot more than that. I arrived right as they were starting the birthday song. Kids were screaming lyrics over a karaoke track, Sugar, already surging through their veins. Maya was on a little raised platform in a sparkly tiara, grinning like royalty. I smiled, waved at her. She beamed and waved back. But then I saw Carla, my sister. She gave me a smile too, but hers didn't reach her eyes. It was tight, like she was waiting for something or hiding it. I didn't think much of it, at least not yet. After the cake and presents, after the clown came in, doing his balloon sword routine, and the kids lost their minds, Carla tapped a glass with a spoon and stood up to speak. Classic Carla loves an audience. Thank you all for coming, she started, her voice light and chirpy. Maya only turned 6 once, and I wanted this to be something special she'd never forget. People clapped. Someone whistled. Then she turned to me. And a huge thanks to Uncle Nate for always stepping up, even when he's swamped with work. Seriously, this wouldn't have been possible without you. More applause. A few heads turned my way. I gave a polite smile, nodded. But something twisted in my stomach. That line, "This wouldn't have been possible without you," didn't feel like gratitude. It felt off. Still, I said nothing. Because I'm not the type to ruin a kid's party over weird vibes. Dinner came and went. Pizza passed a punch. The usual. I sat next to 2 cousins I hadn't talked to in years. They asked about work, mortgage rates, the stock market. I nodded, answered, but my brain was elsewhere. Because it all felt too polished, too expensive. I looked around. Private venue. Themed decorations, photographers snapping candids, a 2-tier cake with edible glitter. Even the goodie bags looked designer, personalized, stuffed with real toys, not just cheap candy. It was the kind of party people plan 6 months in advance with spreadsheets and mood boards. It screamed money. And I knew Carla. I knew what her bank account probably looked like, which meant someone paid for all this. But I didn't guess it was me. Not until my phone buzzed. 3-842-020. Bounce and Bot Party House. Thank you for your payment. I stared at it. No, that couldn't be right. I opened the banking app, double-checked. It was my backup card. The one I gave Mum years ago to cover her utility bills after Dad passed. Water gas trash collection. That's all it was ever used for. And Mum had always been responsible with it. I hadn't even thought to monitor it in months. It was just there quietly doing its job. But now it had just been used to fund an entire birthday gala. And no one had said a word. I looked up. Carla was at the counter, card in hand, laughing with the staff. I froze. Not from anger, but confusion. Like I missed a chapter somewhere. Like I'd blacked out and woken up in someone else's life. I turned to my mum, sitting just a few feet away, calmly sipping iced tea like she hadn't just handed over my financial keys. Then I realized nobody thought I'd find out. Or maybe worse, they assumed I'd say nothing. That I'd just take the hit. Be the good son. The ATM with no mouth. That was when it clicked. This wasn't an accident. This was a setup. A vote. A damn family decision, they called it later. Carla's words. We all agreed it made the most sense for you to pay. You have a good job. It's just one party. Just one party. They spent $4,000 of my money without a text. Not a heads up. Not even a fake apology. And somehow, I was the unreasonable one for being mad about it. I didn't blow up. I didn't shout. I didn't storm out. Instead, I walked over to Carla's husband, Marcus, and asked him quietly to take the kids outside for a bit. He looked confused, but did it. Then I turned to Mum. Then Carla came back to the table, smug and serene. You used my card, I said calmly. She blinked. Well, yeah, we took a vote. You were the logical choice. A vote I wasn't part of. She shrugged. It's not a big deal, Nate. You'll get over it. And I almost laughed. Almost. But instead I nodded. Said, all right, I'll be more thoughtful next time. That was it. And I meant it. Because the next time I'd be the one calling the shots. And it wouldn't be about a party. It'd be about consequences. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling of my apartment phone still lit up on the nightstand. That 3,142.20 charge taunting me like a dare. I must have reread it 100 times. Like the numbers would rearrange themselves, like it would turn out to be a mistake, just a bad scan or some technical glitch. But no, that charge was real. And so was the silence that followed. No apology, no late night, "Sorry Nate, we messed up." Not from Carla, not from Mum, not even a "Hey, hope you're not mad" text. I wasn't expecting an apology, to be honest. But a part of me still hoped someone in my family would at least act like what they did wasn't normal. They didn't. Sunday morning rolled around and the family group chat was lighting up with pictures from the party. Cousins posting selfies next to the clown. My aunt's low-res video of Mia blowing out candles. Carla had already uploaded a highlight reel with a caption that read, "When love shows up, magic happens." Love. Sure, if by love you mean fraud and entitlement. I didn't respond. But I did forward the charge to my bank's fraud department. No warning, no heads up. Just a click. See, Carla had played a vote card. So I played the policy one. The moment I marked the charge as unauthorized and flagged the card, a process kicked into gear. One I knew they wouldn't see coming. By Monday afternoon, I got the notification provisional credit issued 3,842.20, investigation opened. I sat back in my chair at work, closed my laptop, and finally smiled. Around 6:45 that evening, Mum called. "Nathan," she said, "only used my full name when something was wrong. Did you cancel the card?" I leaned back against the kitchen counter, phone on speaker, as I poured pasta into boiling water. "I reported an unauthorized charge, so yeah, it's frozen now. Why?" Her voice dropped. "The utilities bounced. The gas bill, the rent transfer, everything failed this morning." I took a slow breath. "Sounds like a problem," I said. She was quiet for a second. "Then, was that really necessary? You could have just talked to me." "You mean like how you all talked to me before deciding to drain my card?" "That was different," Carla said. I cut her off. "That it was a family vote." "Yeah, I remember. You didn't think I'd notice." She sighed. "You never used that card much anyway. We thought—" "Stop," I said. "You thought I wouldn't check. That's the truth. And you're not even pretending otherwise." "Okay," she snapped, the calm cracking. "It was for your niece. Maya's just a child. This was important to Carla. And it cost $4,000. From a card you never asked permission to use for that. You weren't even planning to tell me, were you?" Silence again. I didn't need an answer. By Tuesday, Carla had officially found out. She called me from a different number, probably because I'd already blocked her main one. I picked up out of curiosity, and she launched into her version of damage control. "Nate, listen, I don't know what kind of power trip you're on, but you're making things complicated. The bank's calling me now. They froze the payment to Bounce and Bop, and now they're investigating me for fraud." I kept my voice even. "That's because it was fraud, Carla." "Oh my God, are you serious right now? We're family. This isn't fraud, it's a misunderstanding. You used my card without permission, you signed my name on the receipt. That's fraud, and no family doesn't mean immunity from consequences." She scoffed. "You're unbelievable. Do you know how this makes me look? To the venue. To Mum. I don't care how you look, Carla. I care that you stole from me. You think this is stealing?" "I didn't say think. It is stealing." She was quiet. Then came the real punch. "Well, if you're so pressed about it, maybe you shouldn't have left that card active. If you didn't want it used, you should have said so." I couldn't believe it. "Carla," I said, stunned into a quiet sort of rage, "you just blamed me for not anticipating your theft." She was already yelling, "I'm done with this. You always act like you're above us because you have a little money and no kids. Well, newsflash, you're still part of this family. Start acting like it." Click. I stared at my phone for a long time after that. And just like that, I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. The fallout came quick. By Friday, the venue had contacted my bank directly. Carla had been asked to provide her own payment method within 72 hours or face a collections referral. Bounce and Bop wasn't a chain, it was a local business. They didn't mess around. And Mum, her emergency fund account, the one tied to that card, was now locked pending investigation. She'd have to verify every transaction with ID and wait 3 to 5 business days before anything would move. Not my problem. I didn't post anything about it. Didn't gloat in the group chat. Didn't even respond to my aunt when she texted, "What happened with Carla's card issue? She's been in a mood." I just kept living. And that was what rattled them the most. I didn't yell, I didn't lecture. I just unplugged. Quiet revenge is the kind that echoes. The next Sunday, I showed up to brunch at my cousin Dylan's house. Mum was there. Carla wasn't. Nobody brought up the party. But halfway through eggs and coffee, Mum cleared her throat. I spoke with the bank. They're going to need me to come in person. It's a whole mess. I nodded. Sounds like a lot. It is. A pause. Then she said something I didn't expect. You know, I shouldn't have let her use that card. I looked up. You didn't just let her, Mom. You approved it. You knew. She blinked, lips pressed together like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I nodded again. No smile, no warmth, just acknowledgement. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was something. That's the thing about family. People think the worst betrayals come from strangers or enemies. But the ones that cut deepest, they come from the people who expect you to forgive them before they even say sorry. Carla hadn't even gotten there yet, and I wasn't about to chase her apology. You know what no one ever tells you about setting boundaries? How quiet it gets afterward. It's like pulling the plug on a loud party and standing there while the lights buzz overhead, wondering if you just made everything worse or finally gave yourself peace. After that Sunday brunch, things between me and Mum became polite. That was new. Normally she was all over me with questions, what I was eating, who I was seeing, whether I'd finally taken that vacation I kept talking about. Now, she just sipped her coffee and nodded across the table like we were strangers on the same flight. Carla didn't show up for the next 3 family dinners. No explanation, no fake excuse about Mia being sick, just radio silence. And for a while, I welcomed it. Until the text came. Can we talk just us? I stared at it for a good 10 minutes. No emojis, no guilt trip, no sarcastic jabs. Just a simple request that somehow made it worse. I didn't reply right away. Part of me wanted to ignore it. But another part, the one that still remembered Mia's gummy smile and the way she hugged me like I was her hero, knew this wasn't just going to fade, not without consequences. So I texted back, if this is just another spin session, don't bother. If you're ready to own what you did, I'm listening. She replied, tomorrow, after work, I'll come by. I cleaned my apartment twice that day. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I wanted to make it feel like neutral ground. Or maybe I needed to control the order. Everything Carla brought with her felt chaotic lately. When she finally knocked, I hesitated. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Then I opened it. She looked tired. Not just physically. Like someone who'd been pretending for too long and finally ran out of energy. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, hoodie with some old college logo faded on the front. Hey, she said quietly. I stepped aside. Come in. We sat in the living room. I didn't offer snacks or water. I wanted the air between us dry and honest. For a few minutes, we said nothing. She just looked around, picking at the sleeve of her sweatshirt. Then finally she spoke. You know I shouldn't have done it, she said. I knew even when I handed the card over at the counter. But I didn't know how else to pull it off. I raised an eyebrow. You mean the party? She nodded. Yeah, Mia's been having a rough year. With Marcus's hours cut and everything, I just wanted to give her something to look forward to. And I convinced myself you'd understand. That you'd be mad for a bit, but let it slide. I didn't say anything yet. I wanted to see where she was going with this. But the thing is, she paused. You're not the one who always lets things slide anymore. And I guess I didn't adjust to that. That caught me off guard. A rare moment of self-awareness. I studied her face, looking for the usual cracks, the places where the blame might leak through. They weren't there. She continued, you know, Mum used to say you were the strong one. But I think she meant it like you could take more hits, not that you should. I felt something shift in my chest. It wasn't an apology, not fully, but it was close. Honest raw, more than I thought I'd get. So, why didn't you ask? I said, my voice low. Why not just call me, say, hey, I want to throw a big party, but we're strapped. I might have helped. She looked away, jaw tight. Pride, I guess. Or fear. Or maybe I've just gotten too used to assuming you'll clean up the mess quietly, like always. Oof. There it was. She said it. The thing I hadn't even wanted to admit to myself. I don't want to be the one who's always cleaning anymore, I said. And I'm done being picked just because I don't cause a scene. She nodded slowly. I get that now. A long silence settled between us again. This one felt different, like the kind that comes after a storm, not before it. Then she added, I paid bounce and bop. It maxed out our backup card, but it's done. I told the bank it was my charge. You'll probably get something in writing. I nodded. Not because I was satisfied, but because I needed to mark that moment, that something had finally been restored. I appreciate that I said meaning it. She stood up to leave. I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, but I hope eventually we can figure out how to be siblings again, not just crisis managers. I walked her to the door. We'll see. That week, Mum called again. I heard Carla came over. She said like she was testing the water. She did. And and it was a real conversation. For once. She didn't say anything for a second. Then she sighed. I probably should have spoken up. At least asked first. I softened a little. Yeah, Mum, you should have. She paused again. You're right. And that meant more than I expected. For once, no excuses. Just right. Maybe we were all learning. Late but learning. The next time I saw Mia, it was at my mum's house. Carla had dropped her off while she ran errands, and I happened to stop by to return a tool I borrowed. Maya ran into the hallway as soon as she heard my voice. Uncle Nate. She wrapped her arms around my legs, her face lighting up like it always did. Like nothing had happened. You want to play kitchen? She asked, already dragging me toward the little setup in the corner. Absolutely, I said. And as I sat there pretending to eat a plastic tomato sandwich, I thought about all the noise we'd gone through. All the anger, silence, guilt, and hurt. And how sometimes rebuilding trust doesn't come in grand gestures. Sometimes it comes in moments like this. A 6-year-old handing you a toy plate and saying it's your favorite. I made it just for you. The thing about peace is, no one tells you it's not free. It costs time, distance, boundaries, and sometimes even love that stretch too far for too long. After that moment with Mia the pretend sandwich and all, I really thought things might finally settle. I wasn't expecting miracles, but I figured, hey, maybe the storm's passed. I was wrong. Because the thing about Carla is she's good at making peace right up until she needs something again. It started small. A week after our talk, I got a text from her. Do you know anyone who could help Marcus redo his resume? His company might do another round of layoffs. I stared at it for a bit, then replied, I can look over it. But he should probably use a career coach if he's switching fields. She wrote back, thanks. I just thought since you're good with that kind of stuff. Nothing alarming, just familiar. That old Carla way of slipping things onto my plate like it was normal. Like my no would somehow be rude even if she hadn't said please. A few days later, hey, are you going to Aunt Lynn's barbecue? I told her we might ride with you. There it was again. The assumption. Not a request. Not can we catch a ride, just a heads up that my car was being volunteered. I didn't even reply to that one. I figured she'd get the message. She didn't. Sunday came and I was heading to my car when I saw Marcus in the driveway holding Mia's hand. Carla followed behind sunglasses on, looking casual. Oh, perfect timing, she said. We weren't sure if you left already. I stopped in my tracks. You guys are just waiting out here. Yeah, she said like it was obvious. We figured we'd go together. Gas is crazy right now. I looked at Marcus. He offered a shrug like, don't look at me, man. I just drive where I'm told. I sighed and opened the back door. Fine, but we're not making detours and I'm not staying late. Carla nodded quickly. Of course, no problem. But she knew I'd already folded. Again. The barbecue was fine. It always is. Aunt Lynn makes ribs that could settle feuds in Congress. The kids ran wild, the adults talked about work politics or whatever the latest Facebook drama was. At one point, Mum leaned in next to me, lowering her voice. So, how are things with you and Carla now? I kept my eyes on my plate. We're civil. She smiled like that was a huge achievement. That's good. That's really good. I didn't say anything else. Because the truth is, peace that's only possible when one person does all the compromising, that's not peace. It's performance. And I was starting to feel the weight of it again. The final straw came the following Thursday. I got a call from Carla during my lunch break. I didn't answer, figured it wasn't urgent, and texted her I'd call back after work. 5 minutes later, Mum called. Now that was weird. I answered, and she jumped in with no preamble. Carla says you agreed to let Mia stay with you this weekend. Is that true? I blinked. What no, she mentioned maybe needing a sitter, but I never confirmed anything. Well, she's already packing Maya's bag, Mum said tone tight. She said you offered. No, I didn't. Mum exhaled like she was frustrated, but I couldn't tell if it was with Carla or me. I texted Carla immediately. Why are you telling people I agreed to babysit this weekend? I didn't. Her reply came fast. I figured it was a yes. You always say yes. I already made plans, Nate. Don't leave me hanging. That was it. I'd had enough. I dialed her number, and when she picked up, I didn't yell. I just said, you don't get to keep putting me on the hook because I don't scream at you. I told you I'm done playing the guy who just absorbs it all. There was a pause. Then defensive as ever. Why are you blowing this out of proportion? It's just a weekend. No, it's not, I said. It's the pattern. You expect me to say yes and then you act betrayed when I set boundaries. That's not fair to me or to Mia. But she loves spending time with you. And I love her, I said. But you don't get to weaponize that. She didn't say anything after that. Just silence. I hung up first. I hated it. Not because I regretted what I said, but because I knew Maya would be the one confused, asking why Uncle Nate didn't come over, why she wasn't going to his house anymore. And she didn't deserve that. But I couldn't keep saying yes just to protect her from the truth about her mum. The next few weeks were quiet, not peaceful, just vacant. No texts, no calls, family chat was dry. I figured Carla needed space, and honestly I did too. Then something unexpected happened. Marcus reached out. Not Carla, not Mum, Marcus. He sent a simple message. Hey man, can we talk? I didn't know what to expect, but I met him at a diner near my place after work. He showed up looking nervous, wearing the same jacket I remembered from our college years. Thanks for meeting me, he said. We sat, ordered coffee, and he got straight to the point. I just wanted to say I get it now. What you're going through with Carla, I've been living it for years, and I let it slide too. That threw me off. He kept going. I should have stepped up when she charged your card. I knew it wasn't okay, but I didn't want to be the guy making a scene. He looked down at his mug. I guess I've been doing that too long. Playing along, keeping the peace. But now she's saying you're pulling away, and Maya keeps asking why you're not around. I felt a knot form in my chest. Look, man, he said, I'm not asking you to give in. Just don't give up on Mia. She really looks up to you. I nodded slowly. I haven't given up on her. Just trying not to drown in the process. He nodded too. Fair. We parted with a quiet understanding. It didn't fix anything, but it reminded me that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the only one who saw what was really happening. A few days later, I left a small wrapped box on Maya's front porch with a note inside, mate, that said, just because I'm quiet doesn't mean I'm gone. Love, Uncle Nate. Inside the box was a toy apron, MasterChef Junior Edition, her favorite. Sometimes peace doesn't look like hugs and tearful reunions. Sometimes it looks like boundaries, quiet love, and finally choosing yourself without apologizing for it. There's a moment in every family where the silence shifts from awkward to intentional. That's where we were now. Not a fight, not a cold war, just space. Everyone choosing their corners, carefully pretending they weren't watching the other person from across the room. It had been 3 weeks since the apron drop-off. Maya had sent a thank you card, written in pink crayon and sealed with a heart sticker. No text from Carla. No call. Not even a passive-aggressive meme in the family chat. Just pure tactical silence. And honestly, I didn't miss the noise. It was like my life had air in it again. I was going to the gym regularly, cooking better, sleeping more, even caught myself actually laughing at a dumb show on Netflix instead of stress scrolling through my phone all night. I didn't realize how much weight I'd been carrying until I finally put it down. Then Mum called. It was a Friday morning. I was just getting ready to head out the door when my phone lit up. Hi honey, she said. That soft, cautious tone she used when she wasn't sure how the conversation would go. I was wondering if you had plans next Saturday. We're doing a little thing for your cousin Alicia. Nothing big, just a graduation lunch. I hesitated, because I knew what she meant by we. Is Carla going to be there? I asked. She paused. She said she might drop by. Drop by. Classic Carla. I don't want to cause a scene, Mum, I said. But I'm not in a place to pretend everything's normal just because there's cake. I understand, she said quickly. I do. I miss having both of you in the same room. And I know it's not your job to fix that. I'm just saying it out loud. That caught me off guard. Mum rarely admitted when she was wrong, let alone when she was part of the problem. But lately, something in her had changed. She was quieter, less defensive. Maybe she'd finally started noticing the difference between peace and avoidance too. I did end up going to Alicia's lunch. I told myself it was for Alicia, not for the family politics. She was a good kid, smart, kind, stayed out of drama. If anyone deserved a day to be celebrated, it was her. I got there early, helped set up, stayed out of the way. Maya ran in with her cousins, gave me a hug like nothing had ever gone wrong. My heart cracked just a little. Then Carla walked in. I felt it before I even saw her. That subtle energy shift. The hush in the room. Everyone pretending they weren't watching to see what would happen. She looked different. Not sad, not smug, just tired, like a balloon that had been floating too long and finally sank to the floor. We locked eyes for a second. She gave a small nod. I returned it. No smile, no frown, just a nod. And somehow that was enough for that moment. We stayed on opposite ends of the room. Talked to different people. Avoided the spotlight. I didn't owe her a performance, and I wasn't going to give her one. A few hours in, after the cake and photos, Carla slipped outside. I followed a few minutes later, mostly out of instinct. She was standing by the side fence, arms crossed, staring at the neighborhood kids biking past like they had all the answers. "I was wondering if you'd show," she said without turning around. "I was wondering the same about you." She glanced over her shoulder. "This wasn't my idea, by the way. The lunch. But I figured I'd come for Alicia." "Same." She took a breath. "You've been quiet. I've been calm." She nodded. "That's worse." I chuckled because it was true. Then she turned to face me, eyes softer than I'd seen in months. "I've been thinking a lot," she said, "about what you said, about the pattern, and I hate that you're right." I didn't say anything, just listened. I've spent so long thinking being close meant being involved, all the time. Even if it was messy, even if I was dragging people in, I thought that was love. But you made me realize maybe that was just control. That hit harder than I expected. She looked at me. "You weren't being cold, you were finally setting boundaries." I just didn't recognize it because no one in this family ever taught us how to do that without guilt. For a while we just stood there in the silence, letting the air settle between us. Then she added, "I'm not asking for a reset or a clean slate. I just want to start showing up without you having to brace for impact." I exhaled slowly. That's all I ever wanted. The next few weeks moved slowly but differently. Carla didn't text as often. When she did, it was light. Occasional photos of Mia playing dress up or a screenshot of some silly thing she saw online. No asks, no guilt, just soft, low-effort threads. Attempts to reconnect, not take. Mom stopped walking on eggshells too. She started sending recipes again. Funny reels. Articles she knew I'd appreciate. It wasn't about fixing anything, just being present. And honestly, that felt like progress. Then came the twist I didn't expect. One evening Marcus called. His voice was shaky. "Nate, listen man, Carla just found out Bounce and Bop is suing her for the payment delay. The bank reversed the chargeback, but they want late fees and damages now." I sat up. "Wait, what? Didn't she pay them?" She thought she did, but apparently her card didn't go through completely. They only got a partial. She didn't double check. Now they're threatening small claims court. Damn. Yeah. Is she okay? Marcus paused. "She's freaked. Not because of the money, though. She said she deserves it. She's just worried what it'll look like to Mia." That part stung, because I knew Carla, underneath all the layers, loved her daughter fiercely. Even if she sometimes led with ego, she didn't want to be the villain in her kid's story. I thought about it for a while, then asked Marcus what's she planning to do. Pay it. She's looking for side gigs, thinking about picking up weekend work. She refuses to ask Mum or me for help. I nodded to myself. Growth, it turns out, doesn't always look like therapy. Sometimes it looks like a single mum taking ownership without looping the whole family into the crisis. I didn't offer money, didn't send a lifeline, but I did send Carla a text that night. "You've got this. Maya's watching and you're showing her what accountability looks like." She responded a few minutes later. "Thanks. It means more than you think." And for the first time in a long while, I believed her. I used to think forgiveness came with some big cinematic moment. You know, rain falling, dramatic music, swelling, somebody crying on a porch in the middle of the night. But real life doesn't work like that. Real forgiveness, if it comes at all, usually slips in quietly. No announcement, no confession, just a shift. A soft place where something sharp used to be. And lately, that's what it felt like with Carla. No more fights, no big declarations, just less tension. Fewer assumptions, real conversations. She ended up settling the dispute with Bounce and Bop on her own. Took a couple months of juggling bills and picking up freelance work on weekends, but she did it. Didn't ask for a bailout. Didn't call Mum crying. Didn't drop it in the family group chat fishing for sympathy. That silence, it spoke volumes. And for the first time in years, I stopped seeing her as just the taker in the family, the chaos agent, the manipulator who always knew which emotional buttons to press. Instead, I saw someone trying clumsily maybe, but sincerely. And that mattered more than anything she could have said. One Saturday morning, I was out grabbing groceries when my phone buzzed. "Carla, hey. Maya's school is doing a family cooking night next Friday. It's not a big thing, but they said kids could bring whoever they consider family. She asked if you'd come with her." I stood frozen in the produce aisle, one hand hovering over a bunch of bananas. That one hit different. Not just because Mia had asked, but because Carla had. No assumptions, no guilt, no "we figured you could take her." Just a respectful ask. I texted back, "Yeah, I'd love to." That Friday I showed up outside the school just as the sun dipped behind the buildings. Parents and kids milled around aprons, tied recipes in hand. Tables were set up in the gym, each with a little stove and tiny baskets of ingredients. Mia spotted me before I even stepped out of the car. She sprinted over like her life depended on it, wearing a sparkly apron with her name on it in glitter paint. "Uncle Nate, you came." "I wouldn't miss it," I said, crouching to hug her. She beamed. "We're making mini pizzas. I already picked the toppings." "Let me guess," I said, ruffling her hair. "Extra cheese, no mushrooms." "Duh." Carla stood off to the side near the entrance. She waved but didn't come over. She gave us space. And honestly, I appreciated that. Maya grabbed my hand and led me inside, chattering about sauce ratios and the perfect cheese-to-crust balance like a tiny Gordon Ramsay. And as we cooked, I realized something. This right here was the moment that made all of it worth it. The confrontation, the fallout, the rebuilding, every awkward silence and boundary drawn in permanent ink. Because it gave me this. A moment where love wasn't a transaction. It wasn't guilt or obligation dressed up in family clothes. It was a kid who felt safe enough to ask, "Will you show up?" and a grown-up who finally learned to say, "Only if I can do it on my terms." After the event, Carla came up while Mia ran around with a slice in one hand and a cupcake in the other. "Thanks for coming," she said. "You asked?" I said yes. "That's how it should work, right?" She smiled. "Yeah, I'm learning that." We stood there for a minute, watching Mia do her sugar-fueled victory lap. Then Carla added, "I know I put a lot on you before. Too much. And I'm not asking for things to go back to the way they were. I just want to build something better." I looked at her, really looked at her. And for the first time, I didn't see the version of Carla I'd spent years bracing against. I saw my sister. Flawed. Still messy, but trying. "I think we already are," I said. A week later, Mum hosted a family dinner. It wasn't some dramatic reunion. Nobody cried. There were no speeches. Just spaghetti, garlic bread, and people sitting a little closer than they had before. Marcus grilled in the backyard. Carla brought a salad unprompted. Maya set the table with mismatched plates like it was an art project. At one point, Mum raised a glass of sweet tea and said, "It's nice to have all my kids under one roof again." Carla and I exchanged a look. No eye roll, no snark, just a quiet, shared understanding that it hadn't been easy getting back here. And that's the thing. Healing doesn't erase the hurt, but it gives it a softer place to land. I still keep my boundaries. That backup card. It's long gone. Household bills are handled differently now with clear roles and clear access. Carla doesn't assume anymore. She asks, sometimes si. Sometimes I still say no, and she respects it. Mia. She's still my girl. We cook together almost every weekend now. Last week she made pancakes shaped like turtles. Completely inedible, but she was proud. That's what matters. The people who matter. And learning how to love them without losing yourself. You know, I never told Carla what the bank said after the investigation. That technically I could have pressed charges. Could have filed a police report for fraud. I didn't. Not because she didn't deserve consequences, but because she finally faced them herself. And for me, that was enough. Because sometimes justice isn't about seeing someone punished. Sometimes it's about seeing someone grow. And learning finally that your peace doesn't need anyone's permission. Story 2, Thanksgiving. I was expelled by my parents. We appreciate your small assistance. They chuckled when I told them I had quit paying the bills and gone. However, when Thanksgiving was going to be about family a month later, about being grateful. Instead, in the middle of dinner, my dad gave me a stern look and told me to get out. Halfway to my mouth, I froze. What Mom didn't look at me. As though they wished to vanish, my younger brother and sister pushed food around on their plates while keeping their heads down. And my father, however, he appeared composed as though he had already decided. He shook his head and continued, "This is all thanks for your little support." I laughed briefly, speculating that this may be a strange joke. "What on earth are you discussing?" My father crossed his arms and sat back in his chair. "Jack, you're not doing your share. We haven't seen much assistance from you in the months that you have been here." I didn't do my part and just gazed at him. It had been many months since I moved in with them. Sure, but I wasn't simply a sulky person dozing off on their couch. I was employed full-time. I bought groceries for everybody, not just me. When they didn't feel like cooking, I paid for takeaway. My younger siblings need internet access for school, so I even paid the fee. Not to mention the occasions I assisted with auto repairs or petrol money. My dad was short when he grumbled. To be honest, I wasn't assisting at all, but I wasn't expecting a medal either. That was crazy, I sneered. "Are you serious? I've made purchases." "Insufficient." My dad interrupted. You've grown up. You need to look for yourself. Then it dawned on me. Staying in their home wasn't the only thing at stake. This has to do with the discussion we had a few days prior. I was requested to cover the cost of their trip. Not a weekend getaway, but a full-fledged luxury resort with airfare. They asked me to cover the entire cost. When I initially learned that they weren't kidding, I assumed they were. No, I told them. My mum gave me a look as if I'd personally offended her, and my dad's expression darkened. Then everything became strange. They abruptly started kicking me out when they stopped chatting to me as much. I let out a slow breath. This has to do with vacation, my mother said, her lips pursed. The Jack family helps one another out. I chuckled. Yes. And how specifically have you helped me? My father pounded the table with his hand. Enough. You are free to go if you are unwilling to assist. It's as easy as that. I gave a headshake. All right, I'll leave. I've paid for everything after looking between us. No more bills, no more groceries, no more lending a hand. My dad laughed at that. Proceed, loser. You see how long you last. My younger siblings caught my attention. My sister's eyes were fixed on her dish. My brother refused to give me a glance. I had no one to defend myself. I packed my stuff that evening. It took very little time. I hadn't fully reintegrated. I always thought this was a passing phase. In the next town, I discovered an inexpensive place. Mine not very good. And for a month after that, nothing. No texts, no calls. I assumed they had moved on from me, and to be honest, I was okay with that. Till my phone rang one evening. My mother's name appeared on the screen. I nearly didn't respond, but I had a gut feeling it wasn't a chance call. There was a problem. I hadn't had any communication from them for a month after Thanksgiving. Not a single text or phone call. I first kept checking my phone in the hopes that my mother would call. My sister, perhaps. Only to check in on me. Nothing. It still hurt, even though I convinced myself I didn't care and that I was better off. Making sure my younger siblings had everything they needed and paying for items without being asked had taken up months of my time. As well as the moment I halted, I didn't seem to be there. To be honest though, I eventually grew to like the quiet. I could hear my neighbors through the thin walls of my tiny, rather dilapidated flat, but it was mine. For the first time in months, nobody expected me to pay their bills or ask me to buy their food. In fact, my salary lasted. I wouldn't feel bad about purchasing something for myself. Then suddenly my phone rang. My mum's name flashed on the screen as I sat down with a dish of leftover takeout. I merely looked at it, perplexed for a moment. Since I departed, they hadn't given me a call, not even to check on my life. And all of a sudden, they were extending their hands. I briefly thought about ignoring it, transfer it to voicemail. However, something didn't feel right. With a groan, I replied, "Hi there." At the opposite end, there was a pause. Then, quieter than normal, my mother's voice could be heard. "We need your assistance, Jack." It nearly made me chuckle. They needed my assistance now. "What went wrong with your vacation plans?" I said, without trying to disguise my cynicism. She didn't answer. Rather, she only stated, "I sat up because of Ryan. How about him?" She paused. In the background, I heard muffled voices. "I'm having trouble understanding what my dad is saying." She went on to say that he lost $25,000. My stomach dropped. "What is he?" She acknowledged that he gambled. I wiped my face with my hand. Ryan wasn't even old enough to gamble or drink. But $25,000. It was more than simply a few $100s lost playing poker. This was a severe matter. How in the world did he earn so much money? I inquired. It was borrowed by him. "I said," she said. Her voice broke a little. I shut my eyes. Christ Jesus. And now she went on. "He has to repay it everything. And Jack, we don't have it. We have run out of money." I reclined on my seat and gazed up at the ceiling. When I told them that I had paid off everything they had thrown me out on Thanksgiving, they laughed in my face a month ago. Now they are begging for my assistance because my foolish brother has gotten himself into a huge debt. Telling them that wasn't my problem and hanging up would have been so simple. Let them handle it. But despite all I was unable to. Despite his stupidity, Ryan was still my brother. He wasn't borrowing that much money from a bank either. This wasn't good. I let out a slow breath. "I'll be over." The relief in my mother's voice was audible to me. "Regards, Jack." I didn't respond. I simply hung up, picked up my keys, and left. But I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. this was only the start. It seemed weird to drive back to my folks' place. Since the night I left, I hadn't been there, and to be honest, I never imagined that I would return. Not so soon, anyhow. The neighborhood had the same appearance. Christmas lights were still on in a few residences. Despite the fact that it was late December, the driveways were filled with the same old dilapidated vehicles. It was all just as I recalled. However, it felt odd in some way. I parked in the driveway and took a moment to sit there, holding onto the steering wheel. A part of me wanted to turn back and leave, but before I could even knock, I groaned, got out, and proceeded to the front door. My mum opened it. She seemed worn out. "Jack." She let out a breath. "Enter." I entered. The vibe was totally off, yet the home still smelled like cinnamon air freshener and whatever cheap candle my mum always purchased. Ryan was crouched on the couch, looking at the floor. My father was standing close to the dining room table, folded arms and a furious expression. There was silence for a moment. Then I inquired, "Okay, tell me what the devil happened, please." Ryan didn't raise his head. As if he had just scraped his knee, my mother got down next to him and gave him a back rub. It was my father who answered. "Your brother was a fool. That's what occurred." At last, Ryan's voice was quiet. I had no intention of things being this terrible. I gazed at him. How can one unintentionally lose $25,000? His breath came out shakily. It began modestly, only a few hundred. I continued, "When I won big." At last his face turned pale as he glanced up at me. Then I lost everything. I gave a headshake. "All okay, but you didn't lose $25,000. Who in heck provided you with the funds?" Then Ryan paused. My father responded on his behalf. "He borrowed money." I felt sick to my stomach from the way he stated it. "What sort of loan?" My mother said something gently. "Not a loan from the bank." I saw my jaw getting tense. What the heck? A loan shark in the back room. Their quiet told me all I needed to know, yet no one responded. Christ Jesus. I squeezed my nasal bridge. "All right. Furthermore, when is he expected to repay this?" "The week is coming to an end," my dad whispered. I breathed out slowly. "You also have nothing." My mother gave a headshake. "Our credit cards are already at their maximum limit. Even the rent for next month is beyond our means." Leaning on the wall, I absorbed everything. They dubbed me a loser and expelled me a month ago. They were desperate and drowning in debt now, and they were counting on me to cure it. I had the cash. I had been saving since I moved out, but not all of it. At least half of it I could cover, but should I had abandoned them without a second thought, high and dry. As I was leaving the house, my dad had really laughed at me. Ryan, however, was unique. I could see the terror in his eyes if he owed money to the wrong people, even if he had been a jerk. It was more than simply a lesson for him to take away. It was risky. I gave a quick breath. I can take care of part of it. My mum exhaled a sigh of calm. My father remained silent. Ryan only gave a nod. His gaze remained fixed on the ground. "I will." "Why do you have 12 grand?" I said. "All I can do is that." My mother took hold of my hand. "I'm grateful, Jack." I withdrew. "Don't. Just make sure that this doesn't occur again." I looked at you and Ryan. "You will reimburse me for every single penny." He took a deep gulp. "Yes, I will. I deal with that later." I didn't believe him. I had merely bailed them out for the time being. Despite my knowledge that I shouldn't have, I couldn't shake the thought that it might make a difference. I had no idea how mistaken I was. That evening, I wired the 12,000. My mum nearly burst into tears. My dad could hardly look me in the eye, but he muttered something that I believe was a thank you. Still looking nauseous, Ryan simply nodded. After that, I left the place. I was clear that Ryan would repay me and that this was a loan, not a gift. Nobody argued. I reassured myself that I had made the correct decision as I drove back to my flat. It had nothing to do with my parents. It has to do with Ryan. He was my sibling. I wanted to let them all drown in the mess they created, but I refrained. I couldn't stand by and watch him suffer because of something so trivial. After a week, 2, and ultimately a month, nothing happened. I hadn't received any money from Ryan. Nothing, no texts, no calls. I gave him the benefit of the doubt and waited. Perhaps he was standing again. Perhaps he was trying to figure something out. Then one day I finally lost it and gave him a call. After a few rings, he answered. "Jack, hello." I made my argument clear. "Where is my money?" A pause occurred. I haven't gotten it yet. I tightened my jaw. You promised to reimburse me. I will, he replied rapidly. All I need is more time. More time, I sneered. It's been a month, Ryan. I haven't even received $20 from you. He fell silent. Video game sounds and background noise were audible to me. Perhaps he wasn't even working. My patience broke. Isn't it you're playing around? No. Man, I'm trying. All I am is Ash. I interrupted him. Excuses don't matter to me. I saved you. I did, even though I didn't have to. You're just ignoring it now. He yelled. I'm not ignoring it. Simply put, things have been difficult. I gave a sour laugh. Yes, but if you don't start paying me back, things will get much more difficult. Quiet? I let out a sigh. In any case, simply figure it out. I then hung up. After that, I was at least expecting something. Nothing despite $100 here and $50 there. I chose to try my parents instead a week later. They could assist him in repaying me if they had the funds to save him. I then gave my dad a call, immediately after he responded. I made my argument clear. Hey, I need to discuss Ryan's debt with you. My father sighed in frustration. How about it? I have not received payment from him. Not a single penny. So I stopped. What are you saying? You handed him the cash, then you made that decision. I gripped the phone more tightly. It wasn't a present. My father chuckled dryly. That's your problem then. I believed I had misheard him. Please pardon me. You choose to assist him. My dad said it again like he was telling a kid. You're to blame for it. Don't come to us in tears about it. I was in complete shock. At first I wasn't even sure what to say. That's exactly what you said. At last I said, family members support one another. You told me that when you expelled me. However, that suddenly doesn't apply now when I need assistance. You're a grown-up, Jack. His voice was suddenly harsh as he said, take care of your own issues. I gave a little chuckle. Whoa. As a result, the family supports one another financially, but I'm alone when I do. Dismissively, he remarked, that's life. You're not fond of it. Unfortunately, my spine tingled with utter wrath. They had pleaded with me to return. I was urged to preserve them, and they abandoned me as soon as they had what they wanted. You understand, I said icily. Have fun, Dad. I ended the call. I stared at my phone for a minute, trying to comprehend the depth of their selfishness. When I recognized that I couldn't let this go, I took action. Not now. They believed they could trample me underfoot. They were going to learn their mistake. I sat in my apartment and stared at my phone again, playing back what my father had said. Take care of your own issues. Life is like that. They genuinely believed they could simply take advantage of me and discard me, that I would continue to play their game and help them while they took advantage of me. They didn't know who they were up against. I couldn't let this pass. For the following 4 days, I wondered whether my parents would simply brush it off and Ryan wouldn't repay me. I needed to obtain my money in another method. Then I had a thought. It was so easy that I was surprised I hadn't thought of it before. My parents' cable and Wi-Fi accounts were still accessible to me. When I lived there, I had set them up. Since I was the one making the payments, the bills were always in my name. And you know what? After I departed, they never altered the billing details. I cancelled everything and logged on. No internet, streaming services are blocked, and cable is taken off. Officially, they were off the grid. I took a seat and waited. My mother did indeed call the next morning. Jack. Her voice was already irritated as she spoke. The internet is not working. I played Clueless, which is strange. She let out a sigh. Could you investigate? We aren't even allowed to watch TV since your sister has homework. I grinned. Well, I already know what took place, what I called it off. Quiet. What are you? At last she spoke. I cancelled everything. Whatever you were using, whether it Netflix cable or the internet, it's gone. Jack. She let out a gasp. Why would you do that? I reclined in my seat. Oh, I'm not sure. Perhaps because I still had to pay for it. However your sister requires it for her studies, then perhaps. Slowly I said, you ought to cover the cost yourself. My father's voice could be heard in the distance. What's happening? Jack called it quits. My mother growled. Excellent. I heard my father laugh. He is not necessary for us. I chuckled. Yes, let's test your ability to survive without Wi-Fi. My mum handed the phone to my dad. You small pay attention. I ended the call. I didn't know what would happen next, but it should have been the end of it. After a few days, I felt uneasy when I got home from work. The door to my flat was unlocked. My door was always locked. Always. I pulled my tummy open slowly and it rotated. Then I noticed it. They had destroyed my apartment. There are cushions all over the place. I can't find my laptop. My drawers tore apart. I had lost my television. Stunned, I stood there. Then it dawned on me. This was no haphazard break-in. They were this. I had just declared war and my family had broken into my house. With my laptop gone and my heart racing, I stood in the center of my ruined flat. I've lost my TV. Drawers opened. There are clothes all over the place. I balled my fists up. I was aware of the perpetrator. This was no haphazard break-in. They were this, my own household. After inhaling deeply, I dialed the cops. The officer asked me whether I had any suspicions after taking one glance at the mess. I made no hesitation at all. I believe my brother and dad were involved. He arched an eyebrow. Family, I gave a nod. I lived with them once. I was expelled by them. We're not exactly on the greatest of terms right now. I described the entire issue, including the debt, the money, and the Wi-Fi. Most likely, they believed it to be retaliation. After removing everything, the officer posed the crucial query. Would you like to file charges? I hesitated because this was a significant thing, not because I was unsure. This wouldn't simply be family turmoil if I filed charges. It would be authentic. But then I gave it some thought. I bailed them out when they were drowning in debt, and they broke into my house and stole from me. What's the worst? I think they assumed I would do nothing. That as usual, I simply take the hit. I looked the officer in the eye. Yes, I did say that. The cops visited my parents' home the following day. My mother called me immediately after that check, even though I wasn't there. She was virtually yelling, "What did you do?" I reclined in my seat. My residence was broken into by you. You took my belongings. What on earth were you expecting? It was inconsequential. She fired back. You simply what I lost my temper. Taught me a valuable lesson. Reclaimed what you believed was rightfully yours. Mum, tell me, do you feel guilty about this at all? She stopped talking. Then she said in a hushed tone, "Calling the police wasn't necessary." I chuckled. "Oh, I'm family if I assist you. However, I'm expected to overlook it when you rob me. It was not a robbery." She made an effort to argue. "The police officers don't agree." She sighed. "We can solve this, Jack. Simply drop the charges." "No," she gasped. "What? No?" I said. As though I had just hit her, she let out a gasp. "This is serious, Jack. Your sibling," I handed him $12,000. "He hasn't reimbursed me since I lost it. My house is being broken into by him now. I'm finished. Quiet." Then she made one final attempt. "The journey of guilt. Will you actually harm your own family members? In this way, I inhaled deeply. No, mother. This is what you've done to yourself." I then hung up. My laptop and TV were discovered by the police at a nearby pawn shop, marketed under Ryan's name. They only required that. My parents were accused of being collaborators in Ryan's burglary arrest. Soon after, my grandparents learned. Everything changed at that point, because they were enraged, and my parents were about to experience the reality of repercussions for the first time in my life. The court sessions were not attended by me. I didn't have to. The proof was unquestionable. Security video, pawn shop documents, everything. Ryan likely believed he would get off easy when he entered a guilty plea. No one believed my parents' claim that they had no idea what he was doing. They were all placed on probation. No time in prison. Now, however, they had criminal histories, and that it was not me that was the issue. My grandparents' discovery caused the true repercussions. I have no idea who informed them. One of my aunts, most likely. However, I could tell my grandfather was upset when he called. His voice was hoarse as he said, "Jack, is it accurate? Did Ryan and your parents steal from you?" "Yes." I said, "It's accurate." A lengthy pause ensued. "Then they will regret it," he murmured gently. My grandparents left for the war, but I'm not sure what exactly occurred after that. My parents were totally cut off by them. No more bill assistance. When they made a mistake, they could no longer hide. They had always been there for my dad in times of need. He was alone now, though. And last, the cherry on top. All of Ryan's debt to me was reimbursed by my grandparents. They informed me that I had done more than enough and that they didn't want me to bear that load. And they were extremely clear about one thing. My parents weren't the reason behind this. I was the only member of the family who had behaved honorably, therefore they were doing it. I didn't speak to my parents after that. I didn't reply when Ryan sent me a half-hearted apology a few months later, most likely as a result of my parents pressuring him to do so. I came to a realization after all of this. I had tried to help others for years, but they had never helped me back. And I was finished. I was no longer anyone's ATM, their safety net, or their savior. I was going to live my life for myself, and my parents could take care of themselves if they ever got into problems again. Story 3. My parents didn't invite me to Christmas and dubbed me a loser. Okay, I said. I astonished everyone by saying that I would pay for my older sister's education. I'm 32 years old, unmarried, and if you ask my parents, I'm a failure, not because I've done anything especially bad, but more because I haven't fulfilled the things they consider crucial. No spouse, no children, and no true family of my own. Amanda, my younger sister, is impervious to wrongdoing. She is 26 years old, vivacious, married, and in their opinion, the epitome of success. They didn't even bother to invite me over for Christmas this year. The week before, my mother phoned to explain her reasons not to wish me a nice Christmas or check in on me. I remarked that spending Christmas at their place was pointless because it's all about her, but it seems like Amanda had forgotten. I didn't say that. Nevertheless, my parents made no attempt to verify anything. They simply accepted it. Mom informed me, we don't want the day to be ruined by negativity. Perhaps you should avoid this one. I have no idea what that is. The fact that I wasn't even shocked or a few more of her remarks. All right, I stated that I would not be groveling for an invitation. Amanda gave me a call the next day. Perhaps she was phoning to make amends or confess to lying, I reasoned. She wanted money though. She remarked, listen, I need some assistance with my graduate program tuition. Right now, Mum and Dad aren't able to afford much. I couldn't believe you had the nerve because we all know you're doing great. I had just been barred from Christmas by them. However, they no longer objected to me becoming the family ATM. I took a while to respond. Rather, I made the decision to deal with this in a way that would stick in their memories. I didn't immediately respond to Amanda. She appeared satisfied when I assured her I would give it some thought. She chirped a brief thank you and hung off, perhaps already congratulating herself on her cunning. However, I had no intention of assisting her. I was considering how long this had been going on. The golden kid had always been Amanda. She had the finest of everything as a child, including attention and admiration. My parents never even made an effort to conceal it. They took pride in her. Generally speaking, accomplishments amounted to charisma and the ability to manipulate others. For the meantime, I was the responsible one, the dull one who put forth a lot of effort, excelled academically, and avoided problems. But in our home, being responsible did not make you a hero. When Amanda wanted a car in high school, it got you used. My parents requested that I use the money I saved from my part-time work. When she desired to attend a prestigious out-of-state university, without hesitation, they proposed that I postpone my graduate school plans in order to assist them in paying for her. Additionally, Amanda consistently succeeded in rewriting the story to make herself the victim deserving of everyone's assistance. The most annoying aspect, she had persuaded my parents that I was self-centered. It became a lecture about how families should help one another every time I attempted to establish limits or say no. Translation, Amanda was meant to get my support. No inquiries were made. While I wasn't even invited for Christmas, she was requesting thousands of dollars for her PhD degree. I wasn't upset in that ferocious lose-your-cool sort of manner. I was cool and collected. I realized I had had enough at that point. Christmas and money weren't the only factors here. It was about years of being used, ignored, and treated as though my worth was determined only by what I could do for her. So I gave my mum another call. Hey, I asked, may we meet as a family? Me, you, Dad, Amanda, her spouse. We need to clarify the air, in my opinion. After some hesitation, she consented. Most likely because she assumed I would come to grovel and say sorry. She wasn't corrected by me. Give her time to consider her options. I would say what I wanted to say. They would listen for once. My parents' house was to host the family gathering the following Saturday. I made no effort to dress up. Jeans, an outdated pair of sneakers, and a sweatshirt. It had nothing to do with leaving an impression. It was about expressing what needed to be expressed at last. Amanda and her husband Greg were present when I got there. Greg smiled half-heartedly at me as he often did. He couldn't help but be caught up in the drama, even if he didn't particularly want to. Amanda had no intention of pretending to be polite. As uninterested as ever, she browsed through her phone. Mom hurried out of the kitchen with cookies and a plate of coffee. This was by no means a social visit, but she was doing her best to be the polite host. Dad was seated in his chair, observing me as though I were an unexpected visitor. After everyone had settled in, Mom replied, "What would you like to discuss, honey?" She seemed to be trying to hide the fact that she had thrown me out of the family gathering 2 weeks prior, as evidenced by her too charming tone. I wasted no time at all. I would want to discuss Christmas. I stated, maintaining my composure, that I wasn't invited because Amanda had told you a falsehood. Amanda's voice was brimming with phony innocence as she went right in. "I told the truth. I heard you say that. Or perhaps it sounded that way even if you didn't mean it." I arched an eyebrow. "Really?" "Because I can't recall ever accusing Christmas of being a waste of time. Actually, I can't recall ever discussing it. However you were able to persuade Mom and Dad to think otherwise." Leaning back in her chair, she shrugged. "I was only being truthful." I swallowed down the rage that sprang in my breast as I nodded slowly. "Correct. When you phoned me the next day to request funding for your graduate program, you were being truthful." There was silence in the room. Greg was truly uneasy for the first time, and Amanda's expression froze. Mom's voice was urgent as she jumped in. "Hold on a second. Money isn't the issue here. Money is always at the center," I interrupted her. "I am here for that reason. For the simple reason that I'm sick of being treated like the family ATM. You had no trouble asking me to pay for Amanda's life once more, even if you didn't invite me to Christmas. Are you aware of how messed up that is?" When Dad did speak, it was in a rough voice. "Son, be mindful of your tone. We are a family. Families support one another." I genuinely laughed. "Assist one another. That's what it is. From my vantage point, it appears like you all want me to give endlessly, while Amanda takes endlessly. Tell me, when was the last time I received genuine assistance from anyone here?" Nobody responded. "Exactly," I answered. "And for that reason, I'm finished." There was a lengthy, uncomfortable pause after I was done. Amanda was looking at her phone once again, presumably attempting to hide the fact that she was the subject of the chat. Greg moved uneasily in his chair, obviously wishing he had stayed at home. Mum appeared to be about to cry. Dad simply shook his head. His cheeks flushed with annoyance. The hush was finally broken by Dad. He said, "After everything we've done for you, you've got some nerve to talk to us like this. You were given life by us, provided you with food, clothing, and a roof over your head. And you pay us back like this." I was unable to resist. I laughed, not a little laugh, but a real heartfelt laugh. The sort that elicits more unease than yelling ever could. "So what, you gave me life. I'm meant to be forever thankful that you chose to become a parent. That is your main argument. I owe you for being here." I continued to giggle and shook my head. "Are you not being serious?" Mom's voice wavered as she jumped. "For you, we have made a lot of sacrifices. You behave like we're the evil people, even though we put a lot of effort into providing you with a nice life." "Given up." I raised an eyebrow in response. "What would you sacrifice growing up?" All I ever heard was how much more difficult things were because of me. How Amanda found things simpler since I was the test run. You didn't give up anything for me. You believed that I would repay you with interest, so you invested in me. And I have repeatedly experienced that. Dad leaned forward and poked me with a finger. "You've never shown gratitude. Do you believe that money can fix everything?" Let me tell you something though. Money has no place in a family. It has to do with loyalty. And you're not succeeding at that loyalty at the moment. I said it again, my tone brimming with incredulity. "You mean the loyalty you showed me when you disinvited me from Christmas, yet expected me to spend thousands of dollars the following day, or when you believed Amanda's lie without even asking for my opinion?" Such loyalty. As though I had just hit her, Mum put her palm to her chest. "You weren't uninvited. We simply felt that you should spend this year at home. You've been really pessimistic recently." I interjected, "I'm negative." Why, I wonder. Perhaps it's because I've been treated as though I don't matter throughout my whole adult life. Unless I can help Amanda or you. Perhaps it's because my efforts are never sufficient. But what do you know? You're correct. Money isn't the issue here. Respect is at issue. I'm done acting too. You have so little of it for me, and I'm unaware of it. At last, Amanda raised her head from her phone. She blushed. This is absurd. This is being exaggerated by you. I only asked for a little assistance. It's not necessary to make a huge deal out of it. She appeared a little scared for the first time when we met eyes. There is no drama here. I said, this is the truth, and the reality of it will soon be revealed to you. The quiet hum of the kitchen refrigerator could be heard in the tense room. Everyone was watching me. Mom's eyes are wide with shock. Dad squinted in rage. Amanda is running about as if she's looking for a way out. I took a big breath and reclined in my chair. Okay, since none of you seem to understand, allow me to clarify. Do you want me to contribute to Amanda's graduate school expenses? All right, here's my situation though. A cautious optimism lighted up Mom's face. That's all we're asking for, honey. I stopped her by raising a hand. Let me finish, please. I'll cover Amanda's tuition. On one stipulation, I'm gone for good after that. No more family get-togethers, no more money, no more invites to Christmas, or the absence of it. I'm finished. Do you want me to remain the family's ATM? Then you can't continue to act like I belong to this family. The ensuing hush was deafening. Amanda was stunned. You're joking. No. I spoke in as calm a tone as possible. Here's the offer. You receive what you desire. And I'm at last at peace. As though she were about to cry, Mum's hands shot to her lips. How are you able to say that your family is us? That's not what you mean. I stated it with all sincerity, because let's be honest, this family is not mine. Not at all. Just give me a call if you need anything. I'm tired of it too. My line in the sand is therefore this: accept it or reject it. Dad's face flushed dangerously red as he stood up. I've never heard anything so self-centered. For financial gain, what kind of son abandons his family? The sort of son who has spent years being emotionally neglected. I fired back. Do you wish to discuss selfishness? What if Amanda called the following day to demand thousands of dollars after lying to get me kicked out of Christmas? What if you two just went along with it as if it were normal? You have no right to lecture me about being self-centered. At last, Amanda was able to speak. This is absurd. You don't want to help, so you're just trying to make everyone feel bad. Normal. I gave her a direct look. You're correct. I have no desire to assist. No more. And I won't after today. What will it be then? Would you like the cash? Or would you prefer to continue acting like this is a true family in my life for the first time? They all appeared unable to speak. I wasn't sure if my words, or the fact that I had really confronted them, had stunned them. In any case, they now had the upper hand. The air was thick with quiet, the type that awakens you to each shuffle and breath. They were obviously unsure of how to respond. I had always been the trustworthy one, the one who could be relied upon to maintain order, the weakling. Not now. The stillness was finally broken by Amanda. She spoke in a high-pitched voice. Are you really going to sit here and use money to blackmail your own family? Can you hear yourself? This is repulsive. I couldn't resist grinning. Blackmail. It's funny, when you lied to Mom and Dad about me, I assumed you were engaging in blackmail, so that you may spend Christmas alone. Or is it simply repulsive when someone doesn't comply with your petty plots? Greg cleared his throat after being silent the entire time. Hey, perhaps we could all just relax. This is getting... No, I interrupted him. We will not descend. Not now. That's the identical issue. Someone always urges me to cool down when I try to dispute the way I'm being treated or establish limits. This family upholds the status quo in this way, by ignoring everything and acting as though nothing is wrong. Mum almost burst into tears. This is not how we intended you to feel. A member of this family you are. You were and always were, really. Since it doesn't feel that way, I said. When you need anything, the rest of the time I feel like I'm the only member of this family. I'm a failure, an outcast. Mom, isn't that the name you gave me? Not having a wife and kids makes me a failure, since I don't lead the life you believe I ought to. She began to object, but I wasn't done yet. The thing is this, I'm proud of the life I've created. I have peace of mind, a strong support system of friends, and a wonderful career. And I will not allow you or anybody else to take that away from me. This is your decision, like I mentioned. Do you want me to cover Amanda's college expenses? All right, but after that, don't count on me to stay. I'm over being exploited. A frustrated dad threw up his hands. This is absurd. Families do not just abandon their differences. You're exaggerating. No, I answered firmly. Pretending that everything is all right when it's not is what's dramatic. Expecting me to continue going above and above while Amanda and the rest of you take me for granted is what's tragic. Money isn't the issue here. Respect is at issue. And I'm removing myself from the equation since it's obvious that I don't have any here. Amanda, who had been fuming in private, finally lost it. You're amazing. You believe that you are a victim of some sort adult up. It's not fair in life. Do you believe I haven't given anything up? Do you believe I haven't had difficulties? I gazed at her for quite a while. Fort, the earth you tread on is revered by both of your parents, a husband who will always be there for you. You still think I'll clean up your mess. I want to know what you call my life if that's struggle. She started to respond, but nothing came out. That's right, I said, getting to my feet. I've finished speaking. Tell me what you choose. Just keep in mind that this is the final favor you will ever ask me for. I left after saying that. After the meeting, I didn't hear from them for a few days. I reasoned that they needed time to think things through, fight, and decide what to do next. I tried not to think about it and carried on with my life as usual in the interim. Although I was aware that what I was providing wasn't the best option for anyone, it was the fresh start I required. A week later, my mother did indeed call. She spoke in a tentative, almost submissive tone. "We've discussed it," she remarked, "and will accept your offer if this is truly what you desire." I released a breath I had been holding without realizing it. I suppose even they realized they had pushed me too far, but I had kind of anticipated more opposition. "Okay," I said, "I'll transfer the funds straight to Amanda's school account. Don't call me for anything after that though, I mean it." Mom began to sob as she muttered something about how heartbreaking it was to watch our family disintegrate. I didn't let that affect me though. We weren't being torn apart by me. Indeed they were. At last, I made the decision to give up on attempting to keep everything together. I fulfilled my promise. I fully paid the tuition. I emailed the receipt to Amanda. That was the end of it. No lengthy explanations or dramatic farewells. Only the clean break. Not hearing from them seemed odd at first. My phone has been a continual cause of anxiety for years. Call after call, text after text, each with a fresh demand or request. It was silent now, calm. Amanda made one attempt to contact me. A few months later, she wrote me a lengthy email expressing her regret for the outcome and her gratitude for everything I had done for her. She expressed her hope that one day we might be able to move past this. I didn't answer. It had nothing to do with resentment. I was trying to protect myself. I didn't want to run the danger of reverting to my old habits since I had been her doormat for far too long. It was simpler to live without her. I had more energy for the things that were important to me, including my friends, my profession, and my interests. It was only after they were gone that I realized how much of my mental space they had occupied. Do I miss them? Not in the way you imagine, but occasionally, the thought of having a family that genuinely cared about me is something I miss. However, I've realized that the family I was born into is unable to provide me with that. And that's all right. In my life for the first time, I refuse to live up to the expectations of others. The family ATM is not me. I am who I am. It feels better than I ever imagined, to be honest.